The show focused on delivering beneficial information on everything to do with products and services that can improve your life. This is Experts on Call on AM 650.
We are talking about insurance and insurance claims and damages to buildings. We have Albert from CanStar Restoration and Gordon from CMW Insurance with us in the studio. We're talking about, you know, your insurance for your strata, what happens when we have construction, and let's just talk about a major claim. So we have an event, and this is not, unfortunately, foreign to our province. This has happened in a variety of times over the last few years. But an owner leaves their barbecue lit on the 4th floor of their wood frame building. We all know how this is going to end. Eventually, there's a fire caused. It spreads from the balcony to the roof, causing damage. The result of the fire is that water damages, smoke damages, fire damage. 24 units are affected. Half the building is left uninhabitable. All kinds of questions. People don't know what they're doing. So how do we get the building restored? So step one, what's the first thing that is going to happen? The emergency services have left the site. People are obviously out of the portion of the building that can't be occupied. What's the first thing that needs to happen, Gord?
First things that happen is that, well, the restoration company going to go in. Right after the fire part, usually those things happen, from my understanding, the fire department, the fire marshal will do a assessment, and so usually they may not release the site right away.
Right.
Could be a couple of days. Site gets released, then restoration goes in right away, starts to dry the place, clear out the debris. We'll have an adjuster already assigned, usually waiting with the restoration company, and so then right from there they start now assessing what the damage is, and then each unit owner will end up dealing with their own insurance, provided they have insurance, and then setting out, finding a place to stay temporarily. And then removal of the content, again, once the site is available and safe enough that they can enter and have the contents removed.
So I think the first call is probably to the insurance company, right?
Fire department.
Well, the fire department's gone. We're hoping that's been the first call.
Yes.
The fire department is gone. The site's been released now, so the adjuster can come on site. The adjuster is going to have a relationship with the restoration company. How's the restoration company chosen?
Usually that is chosen by either the property manager, who's worked with various restoration company, calls that in.
Right.
If that property manager happened not to have any particular relationship, then sometimes it might be with the adjuster that brings in the restoration company.
Right. Okay. So then the relationship is between the restoration company and the insurance company at this point now.
Yes.
And the adjuster is basically managing the claim. Albert, so you're first on site now. You're there. CanStar Restorations is on site. You're about ready to do the restoration of the project. Kind of walk us through what happens.
Well, the first thing that we want to do is create the relationship with not only the insurance adjuster, but also with the property manager, whoever that is, because one of the problems is the people that live in the building are going to be seeking answers. So they're going to be calling the property manager. That's going to be the first person they're going to call. That's the convenient number that they have.
If they have a property manager.
So they move forward that way. Now, then what happens is we'll attend the site. We'll kind of get involved with all the people that are affected in the units and those that even aren't. We'll start to set up site containments, make sure all power and stuff is safe. Site safety is first. Once that's all addressed, then we start to assess the damage completely. So if that's structural components that are involved, water damage, fire damage, we have to go through the whole thing. So that'll be a walkthrough with the adjuster or adjusters. There's probably more than one that are involved depending on the size of the claim. And go through everything, and as we put together the actual scope of what we're going to do, we'll put down what we'll do is we'll develop an emergency scope of work. That emergency scope of work would then be presented to the insurance adjuster and the property manager. Now, keep in mind that hopefully these things are already starting as this discussion and this development of this sheet is being done. So once we get that, it gives them a direction where we're going to go. Then once we get to that point, if we need to go further into the structure to find additional work that we may have found, then what we'll do is we'll talk further with the adjuster, have a second site meeting, and then compile the emergency loss, if you will, which entitles all the affected materials, the structure, ventilation systems, electrical, whatever it is. So then once that's all cleaned up and everybody's in line, we start to bring everything into line and start to put together what's called a repair scope. So the repair scope will involve electrical bids, plumbing bids, it could be roofing. You know, the first thing that the insurance adjuster is going to want us to do is to secure and prevent any further damage to the structure. So that may include re-roofing immediately on the emergency. There's all different types of things. So not all the repair work will be done on the repair scope. It may be done in part and parcel on the emergency, so that you can secure the structure and prevent any more further damage to any of the belongings. Well, there shouldn't be any belongings in those areas, but the actual structure of the building. So that way we can start moving forward with all the repairs. What then will happen on a loss this size, it'll go into what's called a bidding process. This is probably a little bit more of a challenging time for all the people that are involved, because it's a little bit of a process that has to go through, and it can go on for, off the top of my head, let's say a month maybe, to get all the bids in, the different contractors. Once we reach a certain dollar value on different policies, we will be asked to bring in a second bid. Now, it's not me, the contractor, that brings in the second bid. It would be Gordon would bring in another company to provide a competitive bid to move forward. So then the bids are presented to the client, and that would be to the adjuster at this point. The adjuster would then review the bids, present them to the property manager or the council or whoever the building owner is, and then they can approve whoever they would like to do the work. Now, they don't always necessarily work with the contractor that has the lowest bid either. That's not always the way it works. They may want to work with somebody specific. So that's the process that it kind of goes through at that time.
So the contractor who is going to basically doing the restoration, the restructuring or the reconstruction of the building, there could also be other significant subcontracts involved in that. There could be engineering, there could be environmental restoration, structural issues that have to be dealt with, permits, municipal permits. There's like it's almost like the undertaking of building a new building in a lot of ways.
Very much, and you'll find that, I mean, it's no different than any time you're working with permits and engineers and all these types of things. There's a time involved in it, and these are busy people. They take their time to get there sometimes, and that can also add to the frustration of the whole project and the time frame. So as a good contractor, you want to try to compress this and get it to move as quick as you can. We're all about the same. No, you know, nobody's can really circumvent the actual whole system itself, so they have to work within the process.
So it could be 2 to 3 months before we actually see contractors on site doing construction on the site.
Very much,
right?
Yeah. I mean, the emergency, you're going to see people probably on a job this size, you're probably going to see them working diligently for at least a month. And what you're seeing is actually the cleanup, nothing more.
Right.
It's getting it down to the structure where they remove all the damaged materials, they remove everything that needs to be replaced, everything that needs to be quoted on to replace, and then once they get that done, they can solidify a repair scope. So then that can be presented to the insurer, and then we can get the funds that are required to repair the building.
Interesting. So what about all these people who suddenly had to move out, Gord? All these 24 people, who's going to pay for their other expenses, where they're going to live?
Their homeowner's insurance.
Yeah, there we go. Right, that's the rub. You know, I just, you know, it's just so unfortunate the number of people who call us and say, we don't have homeowner insurance. We have to live somewhere else because of the damages. Will the strata pay for this? And the answer is no. The strata is not responsible for you. You're responsible for your own contents, your own liabilities, and your own occupation if you have to move out of your building.
Yeah, it sure makes it a lot more complex when you don't have that homeowner's insurance. I tell you, we've had, you know, numerous experiences. I've seen that, you know, I mean, in condos where even the person responsible are friends or family members, and they kind of go, oh, I don't have insurance, you know, and they kind of go, well, maybe, you know, but the person who caused it, you know, has insurance. Maybe I could go talk to them, and they ask me, can I go talk to their insurance, and maybe they'll just pay me because, you know, obviously they caused the fire. And I said, you surely can try, but, you know, what they find out is that the insurance company generally will not deal in that manner. You know, the unit owner will have to take legal action actually against the party at fault. And usually you would only be able to take legal action against them after you've paid out all your expenses.
Correct.
So similar to insurance company, when we see subrogations occur, so Unit A causes a fire, Unit B has insurance, they both have insurance. Unit B's insurance pays for all the losses, the living expense, everything, until the file is closed. Then they will take legal action against unit owner A's insurance company. So think about it when you don't have insurance, Tony, and even if you're a lawyer yourself, you could be going for like a year, paying all these expenses, and then when it's end, you still have to take that time to take legal action, hopefully recover the money from unit A's insurance.
So recovery of money from the losses because I didn't have insurance after the fire started could be 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because we could be looking at easily a year for a major restoration like this.
Yes.
Because the construction is significant and even longer. These are circumstances where it is going to be a long period of construction. So as homeowners, we need to think about how long does the homeowner coverage cover me for?
Usually there's a limit, so basically you would have a limit. So say if you bought $50,000 of content, they would provide you $25,000, usually about 50% for additional living expense.
So it's a value based, not a time period.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, one of the things too, Tony, is that when you get into projects like this in an older building, we have to be aware that some of these buildings may fall into what's called a code upgrade.
Yes.
Now, everybody might think, wow, it's not that bad of a fire, Albert. I don't understand why it's going to take this long. But meanwhile, the building or the city has just now imposed sprinkler system to be put into the entire building. So now you have to consider that to be fall into your lap also, right? So.
Right, which is one of the benefits, of course, of the full appraisal value, knowing because full replacement value means what will it cost to reconstruct this building today at the current code.
Yes.
I'm Tony Giaventu, host of Key Pacific's Talk About Strata. You can reach us by email at questions@talkaboutstrata.com, and we'll be right back in a moment.
Delivering relevant and beneficial consumer information. This is Experts on Call, and there's more still ahead on AM 650.